to handle the burden, right, and to take that weight upon you, that requires a massive amount of anava, bittul, and caring. Welcome to Medrash Rabbah on the Parshas Pinchas. We are going to talk about the fourth aliyah, which discusses after the story of the daughters of Tzalofchad, rather, that we have a request, a very unique request that Moshe Rabbeinu makes as his time of passing is about to come. And I will quote the wording of the pasuk, and we're going to get into the Medrash Rabbah how it delves into this wording. So the pasuk says like this: Hashem spoke to Moshe that Moshe spoke to God as follows. He says, Yifged Hashem. One translation is God should appoint Elekei HaRuchos, and this is an adjective to describing God. He's describing God as the God of Ruchos L'chol Basar, the God of the Ruach, of the translucent, the spirit of all flesh, Isha L'Eda, man on the congregation. And he goes on to describe into more detail what exactly he wants, who he wants to lead the congregation after he passes. But we're going to dive specifically on this pasuk. So again, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's giving an adjective to God over here, which is very weird, a strange adjective. He's describing God more than usual. He usually does. Here it calls God the God of Ruchos L'chol Basar, of all flesh. Why is he referring to God in this manner over here in this case? The God of the God of Ruchos, of all the flesh. What does Ruchos mean? What is spirit? Spirit of what? Right? How do you translate the word Ruchos ultimately? So let me give one introduction. The word Ruach, could also refer to in many places. It could refer to a spirit, meaning in regards to a part of a person's neshama, a higher format of the person's neshama. In other words, parts of the neshama that deal more with the person's emotions, or maybe sometimes higher, rather than just the part of the person's neshama which deals with the person's physical characteristics, which is the movements, etc., etc. So that's one introduction. Okay. So now there's a Medrash Rabbah very interestingly that actually tries to dive into this and give a description why is Moshe giving this adjective to Kadosh Baruch Hu? And we'll see it, and I will read it to you, to my understanding, to the best of my ability as possible. And the Medrash Rabbah gives an introduction first. It brings a halacha. There's a halacha, and this is actually in the Gemara in Maseches Brachos, Daf Nun Ches Omad Aleph. At the Gemara that discusses a certain bracha, that when a person sees a massive amount of Yidden, right? Sometimes the Gemara says 600,000. So he has to make a bracha, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Chacham Harozim, the wise of the secrets. What does that mean? Okay. So Rashi over there in the Gemara actually explains that what is this blessing? This blessing basically is meant to describe how God knows that He's the Chacham, He's the wise, He's the intelligence, Harozim of the secrets. In other words, Rashi learns that he means that Hashem understands even what's in the heart of every person, and he understands it very well. What's in the deepest secrets of a person's heart. So that's why you're making this blessing. When you have many, many Jews, right, many people, so you're making this blessing describing how this is only something, so to speak, God could have this ability to understand. The depth and the heart of every single, of so many people, right? This is a godly thing. So therefore a person makes a praise, wow, so many people, so many different thoughts and feelings rather, deep inside a person's heart, this is a godly thing. Baruch Ata Hashem, you're praising God, He's Chacham Harozim. He's the wise one behind to be able to know the secrets deep in people's hearts. And the Medrash says like this, the way the Medrash describes it is that just like God created every man, that their features on the outside are different, that is actually adjacent and is parallel to their insides. That, in other words, it represents that their insides are different as well. And therefore, the outside features is what we can see, but that is actually supposed to give us an insight into what is really inside, that their hearts and their feelings are extremely different than other people and only unique to them. And this is something that only God could know. And this is what this blessing is supposed to describe. So to speak, the infiniteness, how God made such a possibility of such differences, even though we're such finite being, but you can have so many differences amongst them within their hearts. So says the Medrash like this. And the Medrash brings a connection based on this idea how in every single person, every year there's going to be a difference no matter what. Even though some people might be born in the same mazel, right? The same, they call it the zodiac, right? Which Chazal believed in, and it actually it created certain qualities in people's traits as an outcome of that. But nonetheless, when it comes to the depths of their hearts, there's always going to be a difference. Even if you're born to the same mazel, etc., there's always going to be a difference. So said the Medrash that you should know that we find the same thing in regards to Moshe Rabbeinu's complaint, so to speak, his demand in this week's Parsha. Where do we see that? Says the Medrash. He says because when Moshe, before he passed away, he tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says that only you know that every single person, of your children, right, their das, their depths of their heart, the way they understand and internalize things is very different than the other person. And only you know this, God. So Moshe Rabbeinu is requesting of God that when I leave, when I pass away, I'm requesting of you that you choose for them a manhig, a leader, that he could be soivel. This is the word in the Medrash uses. He could be soivel every single person according. So I mean, we'll get to that soon. According to his datoy, according to his internal feelings and understanding and intellectualization, and how he brings it down to himself. And it says, because that is explanation of what the pasuk means. Yifkad Hashem l'kei ruches. God should appoint somebody. God should appoint what God? How do you describe God? The God of ruchis, the God of the ruach. In other words, the ruach is the part of the soul which deals with what differentiates them from the next person, which is their internal feelings and differences that no one else has. So, in other words, says the Medrash, the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu was describing God in this manner is because Moshe Rabbeinu, to some extent, was trying to bring down this aspect of God, which knows and could define the difference between every depth of every heart of every person, every Jew. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted this quality and apply this onto the next leader. Okay, now. This is what the Medrash says. Rashi brings down a sifri, I think, similar to this, but he doesn't bring the whole context, meaning in connection to the bracha of Chacham HaRozim. And why there's a big difference is because the fact that the Medrash connects the two together, it brings a massive question now. How could Moshe demand a godly trait like this, right, which is the bracha, we only make this bracha at praise to God. He wanted this to be within a leader of a mortal. How could he expect such? Was he asking for a miracle? Right? This doesn't seem to be a humanly trait. What is this? So if you look closely at the word of the Medrash, I believe there is the explanation to this. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't ask for somebody, right? He never asked in the wording that I want a leader, right, that has this quality. He was addressing God. You have God, you know that there's these differences. I want a leader that can at least address these differences. And the wording that he uses is, I want a manig, a leader, shehe soivlam l'chol echad l'echad fi daitoi. Soivl means could carry the burden. He could carry the burden of every single person according to his das. In other words, I don't expect him necessarily to understand and to know what's going on with every person. That's a godly thing, right? Only you, God, know what that is. But at least give me a person that could handle the burden. Handling the burden is a great is an amazing feature that not all humans actually have. They can't handle the burden of the differences in every person. They might not, meaning, although you may not understand it, because only God can know the differences in every single person, right? You can only know what's in the outside features, right? But at least to handle the burden, right, and to take that weight upon you, that requires a massive amount of anava, bittul, and caring. And that it was what Moshe Rabbeinu ultimately was requesting from God. This is not a miraculous kind of midah. This is a midah of someone who has a massive bittul right? Massive anova, which is actually what Yeshua has, like the Medrash describes later, that that's why Hashem chose Yeshua to be the leader rather than Moshe's children. Because Yeshua actually exemplified his bittul to Moshe Rabbeinu in the way he served Moshe Rabbeinu while he was still alive. So this is a very powerful lesson. The truth is, it's a quality that could be found in humans, but I'm not necessarily on such a broad scale. It's very unique, right? For a person to be able to handle so many people, right? The differences, even though you may not understand them, to nonetheless be able to take that burden onto themselves and not crack. That is something that's quite unique. You won't find too often, like Yeshua and Moshe Rabbeinu himself evidently must have had that, if he requested that. But at least what you can learn from this is a quality that at least you could find on more minute scales, whether it's a leader of a community or a leader of a family even, right, or of a group. That this is a quality Moshe Rabbeinu actually requested, so to speak, pointed out is the first thing that you have to look for if you want to lead a group. You want to take over a group and take your responsibility upon you. You have to understand that there are differences. There are going to be differences in the depths of their hearts, how they're going to retain ideas, how it's going to affect them, etc., etc. And not only God knows how that's going to be. Don't expect to know how people are going to absorb the ideas. That's impossible. Even Moshe wasn't requesting that, the way we understand the Medrash. But what he was requesting is that person should understand that nonetheless, even though I don't understand it, only God can understand these differences, I must still be willing to accept that burden of handling these differences, and trying to, deal with it as much as I possibly can. So this definitely should give somebody much respect to leaders of communities, leaders of families even, how they have to deal with the unique person that they have to deal with, right? In those scenarios that they're leading these people. This is something that is considered a sevel. It's a burden. It's a real burden that they have to take upon themselves because they don't necessarily understand these people. Because think about it, if you were to understand a person like God does, it wouldn't be a burden, right? You could relate to them, no problem. The burden is because you can't understand them, and that is a massive, crazy trait to have. Amazing trait. You have ultimate bittul, really. So ultimately, every single one of us could technically have this to some extent if we're taking a position of leadership of any sort. So this is something we should remember and take into account. And let me know what you think about this.